In life, we are always going to be faced with challenges. As a father, I want to face those problems, and I want to show my daughter that I can be a greater person. For me, I'm a believer that the people that have been before me did something. I was hoping to see this guy and just hug and say, we found each other. But it didn't happen that way. To be honest to you, I'm not a complete father because I'm always questioning myself.
How are you doing, bro?
Seen better days. Well, I'm getting better.
Yeah.
So I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm alive, so that's always a good start.
Yeah. Is there one memory that you had in your, as we were going through that little moment?
I had a ton, but there's one that's recent. That's a great memory.
Would you mind sharing?
Of my daughter and fatherhood. Mm-hmm. So 2 weeks ago, I did something that I never really would ever do as a person. I went skiing. I'm afraid of snow. I'm afraid of coming down a big slope. And I've never skied in my entire life. Mm. And I went with my daughter and my wife. My daughter had an hour's training, at which point 30 minutes throughout it, she was crying and wanted to give up. Mm-hmm. As a protective father, I was ready to take her out. Mm-hmm. Her mother, being a determined mother, convinced them to stick with it. And the memory that stands out to me is that after an hour's training, I don't know where the fear, there was no fear. Mm-hmm. She went up this huge slope with her friend and just came down like a professional. I tried it 3 times. I fell every single time. The skis fell off me. Mm-hmm. I had nightmares about it, even after every day skiing. Yeah. But for her, she just continued doing it. Mm. And this memory showed me that she's the better version of me. She's experiencing things I never experienced as a child. Mm. And she's creating a future for her where there is no limits. Mm. And that is a memory that will forever stay in my heart and in my mind.
Yes, I love that part that she's the best version of me, because it goes to straight to the first question that I have for you, which is who are you? Yeah. If someone will ask you who you are, what would you say?
It's always hard to define who I am. I will say I'm a journeyman where I don't know when to stop. So I'm still finding myself, and in finding myself, I'm looking for contentment and answers, because my identity has forever been a lost memory of mine. Mm-hmm. But through the journey that I'm going through as a father, as a parent, I'm beginning to find an identity. And the biggest thing I know for sure that I am is I'm a father. And that makes me responsible, that makes me driven, and that makes me more committed to do good and be good.
Mm. With Black Dads Germany, we always speak about values sometimes, right? Yeah. The values that we want to pass on to our children. Yeah. What would you say? What are those values that you really share, that you've learned from someone? We will talk about that later when we talk a little bit about your upbringing, the person that or the people that became role models in your life. But I would like to start with the values that you have in you that you're passing on to your child.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the biggest value for me is respect. Respect others the way you wish for them to respect you. Mm-hmm. And kindness, regardless of the person or the situation, kindness is always a key to change. So these are values I definitely plant in my daughter. Be kind, be respectful, and love openly. Mm-hmm. Definitely these are values I'd love her to hold on to and pass on to the next person.
Kindness and respect. Kindness and respect. It feels like sometimes that's a little bit missing today, right?
Kindness is hugely missing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in a world where there's so much hate.
Yeah.
But As to determine where the hate comes from or stems from, that could be another topic. But our children, it creates a fear for us. What type of child do we create? Do we create a child that fights, or do we create a child that offers kindness in terms of where people are hating? And for me, the reason I say kindness is a key thing is I've experienced years of racism. Now, that could make anybody hate. I've experienced years of being let down. But one of the biggest things that's always been a great aspect of me is if you're kind, you don't hold on to hateness, and it doesn't pull you down as an anchor.
Yes.
It allows you to move forward. And I think this world needs it more than ever to move forward.
Especially because of the experience that we making, right? Not just those experiences that we're making today as fathers, as Black fathers, but also the experience that we made when we were still children. You and I, we share something that is similar, which is our fathers were absent. They were not there. And that's the part that is very emotional to me, and that I guess it's also very emotional to you, because we've been in those conversations several times. Is there a moment where you thought about who you would be today if your father would be around?
I think there was a moment at some time where we always wonder what we would be like and how it would help us navigate life of fatherhood, because to be honest with you, I'm not a complete father, because I'm always questioning myself in terms of how I behave around my daughter, how I guide her, and have I had somebody to be a role model, to be somebody who puts me forward, that could have actually given me more confidence in the tools that I need as a father. So yeah, that's a missing part that I wish I had.
Yeah. And if there will be, let's assume that you're about to write a letter to your absent father. What do you think that letter will contain? I know that's a tough one. That's definitely a tough one. I'm sorry to put you in this like in a spot right now. But I think there is a line that I always use, which is, getting to know you is getting to know myself. And I think it helps me also, and it helps anyone that is going through that experience to probably to see life with a different angle, right? And really, and I'm really interested in how the experience, the similarities that we have can help us grow. That's why I'm asking you that question.
Do you know, the letter would have probably been written or wrote in my 20s. In my 20s. And it would have been, I need you, I miss you, and I forgive you. Because, just to delve a bit more into it, I lost my mother at the age of 7. And then from 7 till then, I knew there was a father, but he wasn't present, despite many people asking him to reach out and help me through the journey of loss. I lost a grandmother who was like a mother at the same time, age of 7. And I had nobody to heal with, to cry with, or just to pick me up. And I went through a deep time of poverty and hardship. And to be honest with you, when I look at those years, people would always ask me, where is your father? And I would make up fake stories just to make people assume I do have a father. And I used to paint him as a successful person just to take the focus away from what he really was. But in those stories I also made myself want to believe them somehow. And the person that I met in my 30s, when I tried to reach out, was far from the Hollywood belief that I wanted. And it shattered all my hopes and all my dreams. But the word I said to you before around kindness is that I'm not at the stage of forgiveness, but my kindness was to be, okay, this is a man who has his own journey and has gone through his own things. I will not retaliate him how I asked him where he was. So I gave him financial support where he needed. But to your question now, if I was to write a letter based on that interaction and how it went, it would be probably short. I wish you well, and I wish you a good life.
Yeah. There's a lot there. I took so many things, especially the part where when you start talking about, you said about love, right? You said the letter contains things like I love you, and I miss you, and I needed you, and one of the things that we are doing with the work that we're doing with Black Dads Germany today is we doing everything we can to basically break the cycles of trauma, to break the cycles of disappointment, the cycle of sadness, of bitterness. Because, to be honest, we have good reasons to be bitter, right? Especially because love is like nurtures our bodies, our mind, and soul, nurtures the spirit that we have, right? That we have and then we are. So when that love is missing, when, as you say, because at some point you even say, when I was going through tough time, I needed him to be there so I can share that with you, so I can share that with him, and all that. On the other side, when every time we have conversations, casual conversation, we also talk about how that missing part became what we now start giving to our children. So my question to you is, what the absence of your father, what have you learned from it, and what strategy have you used that are now supporting, right, you as a father today through, that absence?
I think his absence and his choices have made me try to be more different in terms of how he was. In life, we are always going to be faced with challenges. We are always going to have situations where, like you say, trauma makes us take the easy route often. And the easy route is you want to run. And you want to run away from your problems, and you want to hide away from your problems. But as a father, I want to face those problems. And I want to show my daughter that I can be a greater person, and I can be there. I'm more connected in my emotions more than ever. I know when to say sorry when I'm wrong. And, for example, if you said something that you knew was not really the right thing you should have said, own it. And I always share that with my daughter, and I don't leave it to linger. I go and I explain, I apologize, and I'll give you a scenario. Yesterday she misbehaved, but the way I dealt with that behavior, I assessed myself over and over and over. And this is the aspects of an absentee father, because was I too harsh in my words? Did I say something? Did I not see how she's feeling? And I left her. It was nighttime. She was about to go to sleep. I left her to sleep, but I could hear her kicking and grunting in her room. And I was like, this isn't fair on her, because she's going to sleep with emotions of anger, frustration, and lack of closure. So my aspect was, you know what? I need to go back there, give her a hug, let her let those emotions out. As it did, she cried. Then ask her to share with me her point of view of how she felt my actions were. And not to any point respond. She did. And then my response was an apology. And in turn, she apologized. And we did another hug session where through that apology, she released more tears, but these were happy tears. And to remove, sometimes a memory never goes, but you can replace a bad memory with a good memory. And I just spoke to her to say, tell me one thing that's good that you have to look forward to tomorrow. She's got a birthday to go to today. That was a positive one. Tell me a dream that you wish you can have tonight. At first, she didn't know. And I said, I know you love unicorns. Wouldn't you like to see a unicorn drawing with its toes? Just to make her laugh. But those actions changed the whole scenario. And we woke up happier people. And these are things that I try to work on myself as well.
That's so beautiful. Especially because often, in my experience, we tend to, because of the fact that we didn't have our fathers around, we really tend to think that we have to be perfect fathers. We have to do everything right. And which is like already like a challenge, right? Now we're living in a society where so much is asking of us, right? As men and as Black men, culturally, some of the topics that we have sometimes, which is, from where we're coming from, the man has to be this. And now we're deconstructing these things, right? So why? Because mental health is key. And we know that we can only be happy if, of course, we also understand that there will be moments where we might have different reactions. Right? But it doesn't take away the fact that we are loving fathers. And I love the process that you went through, and there's so much that I can take from that, right? Which is, even before the sun goes down, before you go to bed, we really want to make sure that we connect again. And because that connection is what keep us, healthy. It keeps us really as a family, and you can open up, especially because our children are those small beings that we see sometimes, but they have so much already they can do, they can say, and so much they can think about, and so on. So thank you for sharing that. So that brings me to the next question, which is, especially because your father was not around, who carried you to the point where you now really got those values, and to the point where anyone that carries you from the time where you were 7 to now just really also helped you, do the work that you're doing today. Tell us a little bit about those people.
I think to go into it and to show the strength of this person, you have to go through the journey of the broken boy. So I grew up in Uganda, and my mum left me maybe as a toddler to create a better life for herself in the UK. At which point, when she actually achieved that, I was 7. So during that time, my grandmother had raised me. When I came to the UK, I had no awareness of who a mum was. My mother was the one in Uganda who was my grandmother. I came to the UK, vivid memories because it was a traumatic time, but I think around June, August in the 90s. So in that period, I'm meeting this stranger for the first time, but there's a love that I can't quite understand. And this is the bond you have with your mother. 3 months of us connecting and me realizing she's my mother, she died. At the time that she died, there was a young man in his 20s, just finished his studies, just about to go to university, starting off a relationship which wasn't yet too defined. He then, this young man was my cousin. Now, as us Africans, because he was older, I will refer to him as my uncle. 21-year-old young man, just about to start university. When my mother died, there was no other immediate person to care for me. And he thought he was taking on the responsibility temporarily, for the reason being I may go back to Uganda, where I had my grandmother. Christmas that year, my grandmother died. And I'm sitting around family relatives speaking around me. I didn't know she had died. And nobody wanted to take responsibility because this now became a permanent thing. And he then decided to take it upon himself. He thrust it upon himself, and that meant taking on a troubled young man who's lost two of the closest people to him within a space of 6 months. And you don't know what you're picking up. So he moved in with me, and his partner had to move in with us. They'd never lived together before. And we had to create this family out of nowhere. So he's learning what fatherhood is. He's never really thought about being a father yet. He's just starting his life. So he doesn't know how to deal with me. I'm suffering. I need somebody to release. Nobody has told me it's okay. I don't know what loss is. I walked past my mum, her coffin, and I didn't know what to feel. Nobody helped me to grieve. He doesn't know how to handle this, but he's doing the best that he can. He had to put his studies back and take on 3 jobs. As well as that, he had to fast speed himself and had to be a father. So we had challenges. And to make the situation a little bit more harder, we grew up in a really rough part of London. So I had a line where you can choose what communities are. Either I go in a troubled gang area or, I'm able to navigate that. So he had to work so hard to do this. And this man and the commitment and sacrifice he took upon himself. When I was older, after I've gone through those teenage periods of where you don't understand or you don't connect, I realized the sacrifice he made and what he had to lose and stop to make sure I'm safe. And that showed me a person who should be my role model.
Yeah. And that would have been my next question to you. Would you see him as your role model?
At the time, yes. At the time, for what he did and how he acted. And my mannerisms in terms of how I'm respectful, how I talk to people, is as a result of his discipline. How I present myself to people. He had seen a world which I was coming into, and without needing to tell me much, had prepared me in his best way possible. You must study to get to this stage. No, there wasn't a why. There wasn't a, but you need to do this. You need to learn to read. You need to get over this. There was very little emotions in our relationship. But it was more, I need to toughen you up to survive in this world. And I think I needed that to strengthen me.
Yeah. I feel like I need to go a little bit back to what you said, because that was very interesting. You were talking about the challenges, right? The impact of absentee fathers.
Yeah.
And how, per extension, how that will really affect other people, right? Like when that father is not there, actually is affecting the mom, that is affecting the mom directly, indirectly that is affecting that uncle, that is affecting the person the uncle is with, the partner, that is affecting your grandma, and that is affecting you in a way where navigating all of these questions that you have in you is also about, and see how that is connected to the environment you are you're dealing with, right? Because you're also talking about, you know, the tough area in London in which, you know, you have to grow up, and and sometimes it feels to me like, even though there are studies showing how that is impacting, you know, the youngest generation, which means that is also impacting basically, you know, the society in which we're living in and the communities we're living in, and so on. And the reason why I want to go a little bit back to that is because I am also still wondering, would you say that family in the constellation that we have today, right, which is a mother and a father, basically in the constellation that we see, because where we're coming from, family is a different thing. You talked about having that kind of family, which is a little bit different through different circumstances, right, and that's all right. But how would you define then the family? How would you define that family that has to nurture a child in some way, based on the experience that you just shared?
I think you don't need within the same household a mother and a father. I don't want to paint this kind of, and I'm going to say Western type of view that a mother and a father must be together for a child to prosper. But their presence is still needed, and their ability to communicate, an ability to share the same love and respect for the person they're bringing up. That's the significance of it. I'm a godfather to a beautiful girl who has no father, but as a godfather, I see myself as that father, that replacement aspect of it. My way of viewing it is that we as fathers, regardless of the circumstances that are brought upon us, must still be or show presence in our child's life. Love, if it's not there, does not mean we have to force it. But our child needs to remain seeing us and knowing that we love them no matter our circumstances.
So why is it important in your sense? Why is it important to be present, actually? Because you went back to that again. Why is it so important to you to be present as a father?
I think for me, I mean, if I speak personally from my upbringing, that was the hole that never filled. You lose one part of your love. And we can talk about, there was one thing that was going through my head. For me, the journey I've gone through, love is like a puzzle. Can always be broken, but there's always a piece that will always be missing. So for me, I found love at 7, which was my mother. I lost that love, and that puzzle will never be found. I was seeking another puzzle, which I hoped was my father, to give me the same kind of love I had for my mother and help me through or navigate through. Childhood is a journey of finding yourself to become an adult, knowing who you are. It characterizes you. And I always hoped he would be present. Even if I had my uncle there, he was never a father. You know, he was a person looking after me, but I knew he was not the father. And that lost part of it was the presence I needed. If I got into situations where, let me say, I achieved something, you you want your father to clap for you. I want to go to the fun fair. I want to go to the fun fair. Or I want my father to go there. I want to go to a football game. You want to celebrate it with your father. It felt empty. And it still feels empty. You know, I had my daughter. You would have loved your mother and your father to be there to just hold her. And she's 8 now. The questions will come.
Yes.
Where is grandpa?
Yes.
And this year will be the first year I take her back to Uganda. And I'm asking myself the question.
Do you think you're ready? Do you think you're ready for these questions? How do you feel about
the questions has actually come. And I think it came at the right time when I'm more mature. I painted him in a way that he still is present. He's alive. I'm trying to remember exactly what I said. I'm sure there'll come a time where you meet him, but he's going through a journey himself that he needs to know who he is.
And what comes up when you're having those conversations with your daughter?
It's often, where is he? Because she's asking herself, well, I know grandma's dead. And I can feel the pain you feel because I wish I knew her. I'm just seeing the pictures on the wall. And I don't know, you can't relate. But there's this other person that you're telling me is alive. But I'm trying to understand what. So for me, I feel I slowly give her as much as she can take. But also for self-protection, there will come a time where I have to be honest to her because I don't want her to have the same experience I had where you build your hopes to seeing this great person and you end up seeing somebody that's the complete opposite of what you had hoped for. That's a self-destruction moment. And it really hurts. So for me, it really hurt when I saw the person that I was hoping to console with, hug. I don't care where he was, however many years he was absent. I was hoping to see this guy and just hug and say, we found each other.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen that way. You know, the first question I had was, I need money. And that kind of was like okay, I expected that bit. But then the rest was threats. And I was like, okay. Okay, this is quite a different expectation.
It shows how I feel you, bro, and it shows how that is not easy to navigate, right? Fatherhood, especially, and how that is it's tied to our own experience as a child, right? And especially when I know your daughter, right? And I know how she is and how she talks, and you know, she's someone that is very honest with her feeling. And having to go through that and to navigate that, to understand when and where to say anything, and based on things that are really tough, right? Because you also say something that just resonates so much in me, because that's what I used to say, which is I know that I was loved by so many different people. I know that my grandfather and my grandmother and, you know, my aunties, all of these people really poured so much love into me, and they really did help me, right? Sustain, you know, anything that I have in me. But on the other side, I missed my father, right? And also missed my mother, because the transaction that happened was that my mother, through the fact that now she's having a child, she now have to stop going to, you know, to study and to start just working. So the impact of all of it can be financial, can be mental, can be psychological, can be emotional. It's just so many things that can just happen. And I wonder, if you will have to talk to your younger self right now, what would you tell your younger self right now? when you go through that experience.
Yeah.
After you've been through that experience, I mean.
Do you know, it's a hard one for me. I mean, my story feels like a sitcom that never ends. So a few years ago, I may have had something that I would have told my younger person or younger me, but it changed again because then I'm like, oh, and I'm going to go into a little bit. So this I don't mind sharing because I've got to the age where healing is through expression and saying. So when my mum died, I wasn't in the house. She actually took me to another family relative's house. It's like she knew she was going to die. And my uncle was the one that found her. All the windows were open. Now, at that time, we just thought something happened. She fell in the bathroom, whatever. And that's the story I was told. Like I say, in the process of emotional connection, nobody ever really told me how she really died. And it was in a way, I always took it that, oh, maybe she just died in the bathroom, something happened. I never knew the whole story of her. A year ago, I received medical records that I'd requested from the UK. And my mum actually committed suicide.
Oh.
She was going through a time where at some point she had contracted HIV. I don't know when. And the story that had been built in my journey of growing up was that she was a nurse going to the hospital every day, but she was actually going for treatment. And she'd lost the beauty that she had. And the story is a bit, I know it more now because I reached the people that hadn't told me the story before and said what really happened. She took an overdose, but she knew she wanted to do it. And she took an overdose of the medication she was taking. And she was found in the bathroom. I think I don't know the whole story, but that shattered my whole view of what I was holding on to, her passing. So if you ask me what would I tell my younger self now, it keeps on changing. Because for one, I wouldn't know, would I like him to know that story then to be a better and stronger person? Would I tell him that the world is not going to be exactly as you hope for it? Because the younger me was more hopeful than I was. He smiled more because he believed that he was young, and there will always be a time where it becomes a fairy tale for him. For hardship, there will always be something. So he walked around smiling every day, and people would ask him, why are you so happy? You know, this is a guy who walks an hour to school, an hour back from school, has lost everybody he loves. You know, for me, the first 10 years, I suffered loss at an amount that I couldn't believe. Every time I gained connection with somebody, let's say it started with my mum, she died. Grandma, she died. And then as I was going through the journey of a teenager, you know, looking for something to stop me from being a bad person, I found a cousin who took me off the streets, and, you know, we used to play football together. Summertime, he had a heart attack at the age of 16 and he died. This was before my GCSEs. But somehow that younger person still had hope. And the funny story is my dream was, this is a funny one because I always say this to my daughter, I always thought I'd be a famous footballer, make a lot of money, get out of this ghetto area, you know, and repay the people that actually looked over me. You reach a certain age where you realize that these dreams are no longer happening, and the smile continues to turn into a frown because it's disappointment after disappointment. Then you begin to learn that, oh yeah, there's discrimination and racism. You will never achieve anything because people see you as different. So you continuously self-doubting yourself. And now if I look back to think about what would I tell him, I'd rather take a message from him than give him the message.
I'd rather take message from him than giving him the message.
Yeah.
You know, as you were sharing, I kept on thinking of the spaces that we building as fathers, right? The work that you do, the work that we all do to understand ourselves, which is already a lot of work to do. But as you was talking, I was thinking about that your younger self, which has the same younger self is still dreaming, right? Through the hardships, through everything you've seen, and really those sad moments that you have to go through, which is losing so many people that are very much important to you and really so close to you emotionally, and still dreaming. It is something that is, there's so much value in that experience itself, right? That you're giving to yourself, and I do believe that is what is making you the father that you are, right? Which is, it's really not about just being positive and something like that. It's not about not looking at those things when they're happening and trying to put them aside. It's about facing them. But as you're facing them, you're also very much conscious about the work that you have to do as a father, and why you have to be present as a father, what you want to give to your daughter. And I am just really, really so much grateful about what you're just sharing right now, because most of the time, right, we tend to think that our own experience, especially if we're not having a lot of good experience, and as children, we tend to think that some of our experience are the worst one, right? Until we until we are in this room and sharing and listening to what you have to go through. And I am just so amazed, because as you were talking, I was like, wow, what is key to you being all the time, not, I don't like to use the word positive, but you being real, and you being the kind person that I know, and you being the loving person that I know. What have you done, all right, through the years? What have been your strategy, for example, through the years, to really come to the point where, despite what you've seen and experienced, you are that loving and kind Pete? What have you done?
I don't think I've done much. I'm more thankful for the people that have imparted things in my soul. I think for me, and this is something I re-educate my daughter, wake up and count the sunsets that you see. Wake up and love the oxygen that you inhale. Because for me, I saw life differently from a young age. So I'd lost a lot to know what loss completely is. I literally hit the bottom of the barrel, where hope doesn't exist, you know. And then it span. That barrel began to fill. And through that, I began to count my blessings. And for me, I'm a believer that the people that have been before me did something. My uncle, his sacrifice, that brought some aspect of, I need to be like him. My mother, before she died, she helped a lot of people to move to the UK, to move to America, to better themselves. She was the umbrella for all of them. And coincidentally, my uncle was one of those, and that's why he felt obliged. Without her, he would have not had the opportunities to even consider university. And it was that kindness that I felt within my soul. For me, before I'm 10 foot under, 10 feet under, as they say, I want to be remembered for always believing in positiveness. I strive for nothing to show somebody. I just want to feel that I can make somebody else happy. And that's the continuous aspect that I want to believe in.
That's just so amazing, because the last time when Marlon was the first guest in our podcast, he had this line that I just kept for myself, which is, kill people with love, with a smile, and with kindness. And you're having the same. And Marlon was raised in London too, so I don't know if that's a London thing.
No, it's a trauma thing.
But I would say right now, for me, it's the Black Days Germany thing, right? Which is just so beautiful. And that would be my last questions to you. I would be, would you say that love and kindness is an act of resistance?
It definitely is. It definitely is.
Why?
100%. I think it confuses the hater.
Oh.
And I always find that funny. So we all know the situation of the pastor in America who met the KKK.
Yeah.
And his kindness challenged them.
Yeah.
For me, I find it funny because I've been confronted with so many people who have complete hate for me. And it confuses my daughter, it annoys her. But they don't like you. But they look like it is. No. You smile and they'll look more confused because they're not getting the return that they want. You can't give them what they want. It hurts more if you give them what they don't expect. And I've learned that throughout my whole journey.
Such a beautiful journey. Brother, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for sharing your journey with me and with the community, because that's what we're doing right now is for the community, so we get to know each other a little bit more. It has been a snippet in your life's journey, and I am just so grateful for the time that we spent together. There's so much that I could take today. Thank you for the gift and the thoughts, the food of thoughts that you gave to us today. But before we end, there are two things that you would have to do. So one is to answer the question of the guest, the first guest. So we'll bring that question, you will listen to that, and this is the question that the guest has for you. You have to answer that question. And after you answer that question, you have to ask the next guest a question. Can be any question, something silly, something funny, something, whatever it is, right? Our first guest has a question for you.
Do something silly, but relatively poignant. I say,
Whatever it is.
Okay, did you wash your feet today? Did you cut your toenails? Did you clean your toenails? And how ashy are they? All right, let's go now. Basically,
I love it.
We're talking about chicken feet now or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Did you moisturize your feet?
Oh, that's it. All right.
Did I wash my feet? No, I didn't wash my feet today. I feel bad. No, I normally put cocoa butter on my feet, but I didn't. I was rushing to be on time. Cut the toenails about 2 weeks ago. So, no. I'm quite disappointed I'm saying that. I didn't wash the feet.
Your wife doesn't know, right?
No. That's why I'm wearing socks.
All right. Okay, that's going in the podcast. So definitely. And yes, what would be your question for our next guest?
Ooh. He had to start off with a funny one, didn't he?
Yeah. That Marlon is a creative mind, so it's an artist.
There's a question I always... the question for me I always ask, I want to ask the next person. As men, we find it very difficult to share our emotions, the big capitals, I love you, to brothers or family members that are men in our community. When was the last time you said I love you to a male friend or family member.
I love it. I love it. The last time I've said it is right now. Love you, bro.
Love you too, man. Thank you, man.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much. As we close today's diary, I want to take a moment to say how truly grateful I am that you chose to spend your time listening to our story. It means so much to me, and it means so much to everyone out there, because this is a space where we see each other, where we hear each other, we listen to each other, and remind ourselves that we are never truly alone. Please spread the word, invite your friends and family and community to join us. You can find us on all the podcast platforms and YouTube. Don't forget to hit that follow button so you can always stay connected to what we are doing. Thank you for being here. Bye.